Buenas and half a day. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Senator Sabrina Salas Matanane, the Committee Chair on Health and Veterans Affairs. The time is 1:01 in the afternoon, and it is Wednesday, May 6, 2026. Thank you to those of us who are joining us online and for those of you who are joining us in person. Today we are going to be hearing several measures and appointments. Bill number 276-38 COR was introduced by our ranking member, Senator Tina Rose Muña-Barnes. It is an act to amend subsection 121504.1 and subsection 12904, both of Chapter 12, Title 10, Guam Code Annotated, relative to including dry needling and spinal manipulation as authorized activities for licensed practitioners of acupuncture and oriental medicine. Bill number 277-38 COR, again introduced by the ranking member. It is an act to amend subsection 12901 and add a new subsection 12907 and 12908, all of Article 9, Chapter 12, Title 10, Guam Code Annotated, relative to authorizing and regulating acupuncture and oriental medicine assistance. We will also be accepting public testimony on the following appointments. May A. Camacho to serve as the Speech and Language Pathologist-Representative on the Guam Board of Allied Health Examiners. Dr. Erika Alford as a member of Physicians Representative on the Guam Board of Medical Examiners. Ramona Domen as a member of the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority as the Guam Nurses Association representative. Before we begin, I want to note that today's notice of today's hearing was properly provided to all senators, stakeholders, and members of the media in full compliance with the open government law. It was also posted on the Guam Legislature's website and the public notice portal. All materials for today's hearing have been uploaded to the committee drive, and printed copies are available if anyone needs them. This hearing is also being recorded and will be posted on the Guam Legislature's YouTube channel. At this time, I'd like to recognize the members of the committee that are present, Senator Tina Rose Muña-Barnes, as well as Senator Therese Terlahi. And before we get started, a few quick reminders that senators will have 5 minutes each to ask their questions, and members of the public, please state your name and the organization you represent before you begin your testimony. Now, because both bills address the same issue, we will hear them together. If you are here to testify on Bill 276 or Bill 277, please come forward and take a seat at the table when your name is called. Testimony will be taken in the order of sign-in arrival. But before we get to that, we are going to hear from the author of both bills, beginning with Bill number 276. Ranking member.
Thank you so very much, Madam Chair, and good afternoon to you, my colleagues, and to all those here today for this public hearing to hear Bill number 276-38 and Bill number 277-38. Buenas and half a day. Madam Chair, I want to say thank you for rescheduling this public hearing to ensure that stakeholders have a full and fair opportunity to review and comment on these two measures. I want to start with Bill 276-38, which addresses clear gaps in current law by aligning statute with the established education, training, and competencies of a licensed acupuncture and oriental medicine practitioners. It does not, and I want to say, Madam Chair, it does not create a new profession or diminish the authority of any existing providers. At present, Madam Chair, and to the listening audience, Guam law permits physical therapists to perform dry needling, yet it remains silent regarding the acupuncture and oriental medicine practitioners. And despite their extensive training in needle-based therapies, anatomy, and patient safety, Bill number 276 provides needed consistency and clarity on this issue. Madam Chair, with respect to the spinal manipulation and manual therapy, the bill does not propose an open-ended expansion of scope. Any such techniques would be performed strictly within a practitioner's education, training, and demonstrated competency. And Madam Chair, on Bill number 277-38, this bill reflects a broader reality within our healthcare system. Guam faces workforce constraints alongside growing demand for an integrative care, so that in practice, licensed providers are already performing non-diagnostic, non-invasive tasks that can be safely delegated to properly trained assistants. So by clarifying and regulating these roles, this Bill 277-38 improves efficiency and access to care without compromising patient safety. Importantly, Madam Chair, I want to share with you and our colleagues in the listening audience that patient safety remains paramount. Both measures preserve the authority of the Guam Board of Allied Health Examiners and other relevant boards to define standards, establish training requirements, and implement appropriate safeguards through rulemaking. So this ensures oversight is strong but adaptable. So bills numbers 276-38 and 277-38 are practical steps toward aligning Guam law with real-world competencies while strengthening regulatory clarity and expanding access to care. And acupuncture, oriental medicine, chiropractor, and physical therapy are all essential services within our island community, and practitioners on Guam are deeply rooted in and accountable to the people they serve, and remain committed to delivering safe, high-quality care. And Madam Chair, I want to say thank you again for giving me this opportunity to bring these two measures before. I know that there may be issues of concern and support for both measures, but as I shared with you, and your continued openness to listen to both bills and take the best we can, facilitate where we're at today, update and modernize what we need to move forward, but more importantly, to make sure that our island residents are held with, and understand that the safety here is the most important thing. So I thank you for this opportunity, and I look to listening to the members in the community that are out there for, against, or even come up with other positive resolutions to make this a win-win for the occupation that is before us today in this arena. So, Sizos and Sizos Masi for this.
Thank you, Ranking Member. We will now begin accepting public testimony on Bill 276 and or Bill 277. I do have the sign-up sheet. Some individuals, though, however, only indicated that they were here to observe and provided written testimony. So those of you who are here to testify in person verbally, if you could please come to the table and have a seat. I have signed up for verbal testimony Gregory Miller.
Madam Chair, if I may, I just want to note that I do have a line of questioning afterwards, and if you can afford me that,
yes.
After that, I appreciate it. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you. We will begin with testimony from the Department of Public Health and Social Services, Ms. Brianna Sablon. Again, for those of you who are testifying, please speak clearly into the microphone and state your name and where you are, who you are representing. Thank you.
Good afternoon, honors and senators. Give us an opportunity to have a public hearing.
Dr.
And
Cho.
I'm here
Dr. Cho, we were going to begin with Public Health to testify.
With Brianna.
Brianna, to the left, yeah.
Sorry, Dr. Chong. Half-a-day committee chairs Sabrina, Salas, Matanane, and members of the 38th Guam Legislature. My name is Brianna Sablon, the acting administrator out of the Health Professional Licensing Office with the Department of Public Health and Social Services. I will be reading into the record the testimony from Director Ariola. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony on Bill 276-38, which is an act to amend subsection 121504.1 and subsection 12904. While Bill 276-38 seeks to modernize the scope of practice for licensed acupuncture and oriental medicine practitioners by explicitly authorizing dry needling and spinal manipulation, there is a critical concern regarding whether the Department of Public Health and Social Services currently possesses the sufficient information to make definitive determination on the bill's safety and regulatory impact. As written, the bill introduces significant changes to Title 10 of the Guam Code Annotated that require deeper administrative and clinical analysis. The bill states that acupuncturist practitioners may perform these advanced techniques consistent with the practitioner's education, training, and demonstrated competency. However, unlike special requirements for physical therapists who must complete 50 hours of instructional courses, 30 hours of didactic work, and 200 supervised sessions, the bill does not provide a baseline of hours or specific curriculum for ACOM practitioners. The DPHSS director cannot currently determine if the existing graduate level education mentioned in the legislative findings universally covers these specific modalities to same safety standards as the physical therapy requirements. Section 2E of the bill mandates that Public Health, DPHSS, assist board members in the periodic inspection of clinics where dry needling is performed. Without seeing the proposed rules from the board, DPHSS lacks the necessary data to evaluate how these standards will interact with existing public health safety codes. There is no provided data on how the regulatory ambiguity cited in this bill has historically impacted patient outcomes in Guam, making it difficult to measure the necessity of this expansion against potential risk. In its current form, Bill 276-38 places the burden of safety and enforcement on public health without providing the specific clinical benchmark or resource assessments needed for a responsible determination. We respectfully suggest that the committee request a comprehensive briefing from Public Health and the Guam Board of Allied Health Examiners to ensure the department is fully prepared to implement these changes effectively. Ariola.
Thank you, Ms. Sablan. Mr. Chung.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, will we be reading for 277 as well?
My apologies. Your testimony on Bill 277.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, honors. I'm here
Dr.
for-
Chung, my apologies. She has testimony on Bill 277 as well.
Thank you. The Department of Public Health and Social Services recognizes the intent of the bill and addresses the healthcare workforce limitations and expands patient access to integrative care. However, the department currently maintains that there is insufficient information and regulatory clarity to make full determination regarding the bill's impact on public health and safety departmental resources. While Bill 277-38 establishes a new acupuncture and oriental medicine assistant role, several areas remain undefined. The bill requires 40 hours of approved safety and clinical support training. Public Health lacks information on who will develop this curriculum and how will Public Health or the Guam Board of Allied Health Examiners will verify its scientific adequacy regarding infection control and anatomy. The bill mandates certification from a professional organization approved from the Guam Board of Allied Health Examiners. Without a list of accredited organizations, Public Health cannot access the rigor of these external entities. Under existing mandates, Public Health often assists licensing board with clinic inspections. This bill allows ACOM assistants to handle equipment, sterilization, and needle removal. Needle removal and sterilization are high-risk tasks involving blood-borne pathogens. The department does not have enough data to estimate the increased frequency of inspections required to ensure that assistants who are not licensed healthcare providers are adhering to strict, non-invasive, and on-premise supervision rules. The bill defines on-premise supervision as a licensed practitioner being physically present at the clinical site and immediately available. Public health currently lacks the regulatory framework or the necessary inspectorate staff to monitor real-time compliance with this provision. There is no provided data on how many assistants a single practitioner can supervise simultaneously, which is critical for preventing a supervision gap that can jeopardize patient safety. While public health supports the goal of modernizing the healthcare workforce, Bill 277-38 leaves several operational and safety questions unanswered.
Thank you. Dr. Chung, you may now provide your testimony.
Yes, my honor. I come here for support our bill 276-38 for dry needle and spinal manipulations. Bill 277-38 for ACOM assistance. And the bill for 276 is we're not expanding the scope of practice. Already exists in our scope of practice in ACOM. And our technique, ACOM is specialized in needling. And dry needle is, definition of a dry needle is intermuscular stimulate, such as like between the muscle and stimulate the point. But that's our, ASHI point. We call ASHI. This is all during pain control. We always use about 50–60% of this ASHI point. But just change the name and practice acupuncture. Only study online for like 50 hours. We study master degree for 3,300 hours for the needling and practice acupuncture-oriented medicines. And this is my really concern about dry needling. They only study 50 hours. It's going to be very risky for the public and the community of Guam. And spinal manipulation, we not practice chiro. Twina is one of manipulation exists in over 2,000 China. That's our main course in acupuncture and medicines. And I believe that history of chiro is 181. 131 is the most up to now. This technique is it's been long and proved to practice this manipulation. Twina manipulation is not for specialized for the spine. Whole body include spine. So it's totally different from chiro. Also, Twina is based on Orient medicine. It's not based on Western medicines. It's a totally different style. And chiro is based on Western medicines. It's totally different. I don't know why chiro is concerned about, Twina spinal manipulations. We're not doing only spinal manipulation, whole body plus spine. Even, for example, massage therapy does spinal manipulations. Osteopathic practice, internal medicine plus spinal manipulations. Oriental medicine study internal medicine plus, whole body, manipulation include spinal manipulations. So we're not just like, it's not same as a chiro. It's totally different. So that's why This whole reason why we put it here, because we want to clarify with the Cairo. That's the whole purpose. Do you have any other questions?
We're going to allow everybody to testify first, and then we'll have questions for the panel. If you could just state your first and last name, and if you are representing any particular organization or clinic.
할 말 있어? My name is Chang-Won Jung, practice acupuncture oriental medicine and Heaven Man Oriental Medical Research Clinic in Harlem. I've been practicing over 30 years on Guam, since 1994 on Guam.
Thank you. Are you testifying? No? Okay. Dr. Miller.
Good afternoon, Senators. Thank you for the chance to testify. My colleagues have a lot of information on the amount of education in spinal manipulation that's allowed internationally in acupuncture-based universities and also the United States. So I'm not going to go over that because it's quite detailed. But I want to go over chiropractic itself first. It's now about a 130-year-old profession in the United States. It's an 8-year equivalent college education. Usually it's 4 plus 4, undergraduate, pre-med, and a 4-year, 4,000 to 300, 4,000 to 500 hour curriculum. And it's all based on a health technique where you use spinal manipulation, not because of the bones, but because of the nervous system. 31 pairs of nerves on each side of the spine go to every cell in the body. And therefore, when you're using spinal manipulative techniques, you are affecting the nervous system, which is a very delicate, sensitive part of the body. So for us, it requires years and years of education to become proficient. We're tested by it, and it's very well accepted. As a matter of fact, I'm sure you all are familiar with the Joint Commission, which basically is the accrediting council for all of America. The Joint Commission recognizes chiropractors as physicians. They have 2 levels of physicians. Unencumbered physicians are full license. That would be medical doctors and osteopathic doctors. And then physicians within their scope of practice include chiropractors, includes podiatrists, optometrists, and dentists. And it's a great honor to be at that level. So even at the Joint Commission level, they recognize chiropractic with spinal manipulative therapy to be that important. So it's a very big deal. Now, as far as the bill itself, I'm uneasy with a lot of parts, and I am testifying in opposition. Number one, in order for this bill to go through, you have to take something out of chiropractic because in our law, we have a specific section on manipulation. It describes manipulation in detail. It reserves it exclusively for chiropractors under the Allied Health Board. And therefore, in the Allied Health licensure system, only chiropractors can do that. So if this bill goes through, you're actually taking something away from us, which is very unusual. And quite frankly, I would find this bill very controversial, and it's somewhat embarrassing that you would allow somebody to take something away from another profession. And then as far as dry needle, I don't have that much to say on it, but the physical therapists lobbied for it. They went through the public hearings. It was about 2 years ago, 2023, at the end of the last session. And the way it's supposed to work at the board level is you have your public hearings, then you have a period of time where you have written testimony, and then the board should sit down and go over all that and decide what the final draft of the bill is going to look like when it's introduced. That whole section was skipped. We had a public hearing, and about 10 days later, the bill was introduced. And none of us found out about these restrictions put on physical therapy. What they did to physical therapy and dry needling, they made it impossible. No such class exists. It's not out there. So that's why PT is kind of stuck right now. And so we don't know who put it in the bill or why it's in the bill, but I even think the way that it was promulgated was wrong. And I'm not sure how it happened, and I'm not going to point any fingers. There's other points of confusion with that bill and the changes made to acupuncture, I was talking to an acupuncturist the other day, and you have to understand that an acupuncturist has a master's degree. Oriental medicine is a PhD. They're doctors. But the master's degree acupuncturist says, yeah, now we can call ourselves doctors. We were told by somebody, he didn't name names, that it's okay to even have a master's degree call themselves doctors, which is totally wrong and illegal, and it opens up a whole new box of problems. So at Allied Health, we have a lot of master's degree licenses, a lot of them in the psychologies, speech and language pathology, some of them. And if all of a sudden in the future somebody looks and says, hey, Allied Health allowed the acupuncturist at the master's level to use the title doctor, it's going to be very confusing. Some people will say, well, I want to call myself doctor. And I do realize under the Oriental cultures that it's common to call your acupuncturist doctor because he kind of is like a family doctor. But we're not in East Asia, we're in the United States, and the title doctor is reserved for people with proper doctorates. So that's not a big deal to me, but I think that should be looked into. So as far as the chiropractic, you're going to hear a lot from my colleagues. They're going to tell you about the education requirements that would be needed for spinal manipulative therapy to be practiced by acupuncturists, but it doesn't exist. So when this bill was first introduced about 3 months ago at the March meeting of the Allied Health Board, a motion was made and passed unanimously that in order for the board to make any comment on this, that the acupuncturist would have to come into the board meeting with the syllabuses of the classes that they think would allow them to become proficient in spinal manipulative therapy. And in the April meeting, in the May meeting, nothing was produced. In my opinion, it probably doesn't exist. So you can't just say, I go to school for 3,000 hours, so I should be able to do something. You have to prove that you're proficient in spinal manipulative therapy. And really, the only two professions that are proficient would be chiropractors and osteopathic physicians. So we're very concerned about that because they did not come and meet that stipulation. One other anecdotal one was on the second law about the assistants, and if I heard it right, I heard it here today for the first time, that these assistants would also be responsible for sterilizing needles. On Guam, it is illegal to reuse needles. All acupuncturists are required to do one-time use needles and then throw them away. So if people they forgot about that law or something, if they're using needles over and over again, that should be checked by public health, because that could create a big public health hazard. And it's against the law. They have to use dry needles. That's been since 1994. And I think that's about all I have to say, because you're going to hear a lot more from my colleagues about educational standards for acupuncturists and spinal manipulative therapy, which what I have here, I'm not going to read it all, is we checked with all the accredited institutions that we could find in East Asia and in the United States, and there is no state and no university that teaches spinal manipulative therapy in acupuncture curriculum, and there's no state that allows specifically for an acupuncturist to practice spinal manipulative therapy. And my last comment is, I'm just a little bit confused because my colleague, Dr. Chong, was saying there is I think it's a Chinese name, Tuina, is that correct? Where it's a massage type that does include some manipulation. So why even bother? I mean, you already do some manipulation. Why add a whole new title to it? And I'm pretty much done because you're going to hear a lot more. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to testify on either Bill 276 or Bill 277? Please have a seat at the table, introduce yourself and whether you are representing any particular organization or clinic. Yes, please have a seat.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Jordan Tinkson. I am a physical therapist at SOAR Physical Therapy. I am here to testify in opposition of Bill 276. So one of the things that I think clearly needs to be addressed is that the studies that acupuncturists undergo and the practices that they participate in are traditionally rooted in Eastern medicine. Dry needling and spinal manipulation are Western medicine practices. So the technique that our colleague is mentioning, which includes some form of spinal manipulation where there is what's called the joint cavitation, where there is a pressure buildup and you get that popping sensation within the joint, right, occurs within the technique that they perform. Now, a spinal manipulation is a very specific type of joint mobilization in which they take a joint that is defined as hypermobile, so the joint cannot move very well, and they perform a low amplitude, high velocity thrust in which that joint now is allowed to move more freely, thus resulting in a reduction in pain and more flexibility. So, now what happens is you have an Eastern medicine practice that we are throwing in all these very specific Western medicine skills that they do not necessarily are trained in. That includes a high differential diagnosis in being able to differentiate what specific cause is, or what is the underlying condition here, right? What are the red flags present, why I should or should not be performing this specific task, and the negative consequences that can occur if this task is performed. So this is a high-level skill that chiropractors are highly trained in, and in certain states, physical therapists can perform with proper training. There are regulations for that we are just allowing them to do without any proof of any didactic training or practical training within that skill set based off of Eastern medicine concepts. The same applies with dry needling. Dry needling is technically a subset of an acupuncturist skill. The difference is that, once again, acupuncture is based off of Eastern medicine concept. Dry needling is a Western medicine concept in which we are not looking at meridian points or looking at restoring energy flow within an individual's body. We are taking a look at the individual and the person, trying to recognize what type of injury is going on, are there any red flags present, and what tissue or muscle or structure am I exactly trying to influence through this skilled intervention. Again, this is something that physical therapists have to undergo advanced training for in I believe in all, if not most states, right? However, our current profession here has a significant barrier. One, the hours of coursework required, in which there are no courses on Guam which physical therapists can take. So you're looking at physical therapists being restricted in this practice to get advanced training by cost alone. The second is the 200 hours of supervision. The law currently does not define what counts as supervision, who has to supervise us, as well as how to properly submit that to the board. The downside about that is that now we are pigeonholed. If we place a 200-hour supervision requirement without anyone to actually supervise us, basically physical therapists are still restricted from practicing this law. I'm all for the additional coursework requiring physical therapists to dry needle, right? Which I feel like we should also set the same requirement across all professions if we're looking at advanced skill sets that is not typically included in the didactic and practical education that we receive throughout our coursework. So once again, acupuncturists, Eastern medicine typically, dry needling and spinal manipulation, although there are techniques in acupuncture medicine that have similar effects or techniques, that is still Western medicine thinking, where we are looking at differential diagnosis, recognition of red flags, and deciding if the intervention is appropriate or not for that individual. That is all.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Sorry.
I'm sorry, could you please repeat your name?
Dr. Jordan Tinkson. I practice at SOAR Physical Therapy, and I represent some of the physical therapists.
Thank you. Okay,
Oh, just once? Okay. Good afternoon, Senator Matanane and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Dr. Barbara Anadera Gregory. I'm a doctor of chiropractic with Pacific Life Chiropractic, and also I represent the Chiropractic Council of Guam. I've been practicing on Guam, here on Guam for, I don't know, 30 years. I am here today in opposition of Bill 276-38 and respectfully request that it be tabled for further review. As you've heard from my colleagues, Dr. Miller and Dr. Tinkson, there's a lot to be addressed in this bill. This bill raises important concerns regarding professional competency, also patient safety. First, spinal manipulation and dry needling are distinct procedures that require different training and clinical framework. In the U.S., spinal manipulation is a core regulated component of a chiropractic practice. There is no consistent national standard that includes spinal manipulation within the acupuncture scope. Secondly, international standards further support this distinction. Organizations such as the World Health Organization, the International Organization for Standardization, and the World Federation of Acupuncture and Moxibustion Societies define acupuncture standards around needle technique and safety, but do not include spinal manipulation or biomechanical procedures. Third, both procedures require advanced knowledge of anatomy, neurology, and diagnosis, expanding the scope without clearly defined procedure-specific training standards introduces unnecessary risk to patients. Finally, this bill may create conflicts within our existing chiropractic statutes. Any change impacting multiple professions should be carefully aligned to avoid unintended legal and clinical consequences. For these reasons, I respectfully ask that Bill 276-38 be tabled to allow for proper review, stakeholder input, and development of clear and consistent standards. Thank you for your time, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Dr. Barber. Is there anyone else that would like to testify either on Bill 276 or Bill 277? If not, we will now have, yes, Dr. Chung.
Yes, my honor. Let me explain to the chiro doctors and PT doctors. I think you guys are confused with Oriental medicine and Western medicines. Acupuncture, Oriental medicine is based on Oriental medicine, not Western medicines. And the requirement of, to study, get a degree of a master's degree, takes 4 years, strict to the school, 3,300 hours. Before that, 2 years of pre-med. The doctor's degree of acupuncture, Oriental medicine, another 2 years. So we study 6 years to study. Total hours, 452 hours. Chiro study 420 hours. 4 years to 5 years studying chiro. For us, strict to the 6 years. If there is further up, further education such as PhD level, another 4 years after master degree. So total, I studied 10 years. And master's degree of the study is Western medicine, we study 650 hours. Anatomy, physiology, neuroanatomy, pathophysiology, Western medical diagnostics, pharmacology, red flag identifications, collaborative care and referral standards. This for the Western medicines, beside Oriental medicines. Clinical training, 900 to 1,200 hours. Supervised patient care, needling techniques, musculoskeletal assessment, case management, safety and risk management protocol, externship. This total is 3,240 hours for the master degree. Oriental medicine theory and technique, we study 1,400 hours. Acupuncture technique, meridian theory, herbal medicine, manual therapy, orthopedic evaluations, and treatment plan. These are the master degree. Beside that, acupuncture, oriental medicine, another 1,280 hours. Total, we study for the doctoral level, 4,520 hours. We have enough hours to study specifically. Beside that, spinal manipulation is not, we're not only doing spinal manipulation, we use elbow, palms, knuckles, fingers, and thumb techniques, different manipulations. It's not going to be, it's totally different from chiro. Chiro based on the Western medicine, just like dry needle. Dry needle, under dry needle, they practice acupuncture. How many hours study? 50 hours maximum, say over 1,000, whatever, but they only study online 50 hours. We study master degree 3,300 hours for the safety. And acupuncture needling is our profession. And they say, oh, dry needling, that's not their PT is core requirement. Those I explained to all this based on national standard recognized by U.S. Department of Education. This is all standard from requirement for U.S. education. So we have enough hours to study doing manipulation. And twinner specific, we study 120 hours for the twinner. Beside that, 1,400 hours for the Oriental medicine altogether, plus internship. Clinical internship, 1,000 hours, plus 250 hours. So total master degree is 3,240, and doctorate degree, 4,520 hours, enough to prove. And Oriental medicine in our country exists 5,000 years. And twinner, 2,000 years, over 2,000 years in Chinese manipulation techniques. In Asia, such as China, Korea, Japan, we don't have a chiropractor. We do have twinner. So chiro technique is very rough, strong techniques, but twinner is very gentle and totally different style of techniques. So I don't see why chiro and PT oppose our training and practice of manipulation and spinal manipulations. Thank you, Honor.
Thank you, Dr. Chung. We will now begin questions from my colleagues, beginning with the ranking member and author of Bill 276 and Bill 277, Senator Muña-Barnes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I know that when these two bills were going to come, I did speculate that there would be opposition for one bill over the other. And I wanted to make sure that the listening audience would understand that in technology today and moving forward, what may have been bad back then may be better today, and vice versa. What was good back then may not be so good today. And as we look at training and education and services to provide for our community, we need to be able to be open to look at all the opportunities that are with us. And I do know that Doc from SOAR, you spoke about the differences. And then we talked about both Western medicine and Eastern medicine. And something that I have been very open to, having our island of Guam, even today being afforded the opportunity to get Eastern medicine work through even our patients going to Taiwan and the medical hospitals back there accepting what we have with insurances here. I only bring that up as an opportunity to let you guys know, as policymakers, we literally have to be open-minded to everything. That being said, I also know that as we continue to look and bringing specialties on Guam, whether it be from podiatry to physical therapy to allopathic medicine to physician's assistants, to all that, we here as policymakers continue to look at the opportunities on how we can engage to bringing new medical opportunities to our community, to include occupational therapy, like I said, podiatry, physical therapy, osteopathic medicine, to that, working with the Western education system through WICHE, the Guam Community College, and all that. I say that, Madam Chair, because I know that I am looking for a follow-up onto these two bills that we have before us. And the 4 questions, Madam Chair, that I wanted to ask was to literally work to see and be open-minded. First, ask Dr. Chung, what are the core education and clinical training required for the acupuncture and Oriental medicine practitioners, specifically, does curriculum include the musculoskeletal assessment, the neuroanatomy, and the needle-based therapies? Dr. Chung.
Yes, correct.
Does that include?
Yes.
Okay, so, and if anybody else wants to jump in, I know that there's often confusion between dry needling and acupuncture. So I'm just going to cut it short. Are ACOM practitioners trained in techniques that overlap with dry needling? And where do the training and clinical applications overlap, and where do they differ? So any one of you can start first.
I'd like to speak to some of that.
Sure.
There was an exhaustive literature search of the universities and the laws in the United States and also in East Asia. None of them have specific courses or syllabuses in teaching spinal manipulative therapy. Now, my colleague is very well educated in musculoskeletal and even neurological, but that does not mean that he could do this one technique. I'll give you, for instance, my college, my chiropractic college in Oregon, taught minor surgery, proctology, gynecology, and for me to graduate, I had to do pap smears, had to do proctological exams, and I had to observe minor surgery. Now, it seems weird for a chiropractor, but that's all legal in Oregon for chiropractors to do. Now, I don't do that on Guam because it's against the law. Our scope of practice does not allow that. And that's part of it, is you got to be within the scope of practice of your area. And like I said, the acupuncturists and the Oriental medicine doctors have very good education, but it's not specific enough to enter into this realm and be safe. Because for chiropractic, it's years and years and years. And when he read off his syllabuses, it does not include X-ray analysis for what we call subluxations, the malalignment with the neurological component. The X-ray and the MRIs that we deal with are very specific towards our techniques. That's a lot of times how we decide which vertebrae needs to be adjusted was through medical imaging. So it's simply not the same. And like Dr. Gregory said, there's a pretty strong potential danger here in watering down these techniques by allowing other professions to do it with minimal weekend seminars, that type of thing. And back in, I'm trying to guess, it's probably 1994, Dr. Kalingo, George Kalingo, was the chair of the Allied Health Board. And there was a long discussion about, you know, Allied Health is different than any other board because I think we have 14 professions. So it's not like there's a chiropractic board with only chiropractors on it. That would be really easy. And it wasn't a law we passed, but it was a policy we passed that each license on that board should have something very unique that identifies them, their identity. And in acupuncture, I'm sure their identity is based around meridian therapy and the insertions of needles and energy flow. That's what makes an acupuncturist an acupuncturist. In chiropractic, it's spinal manipulative therapy. In other modalities, in physical therapy, it's kind of the same. And so now we're going against that policy by saying, well, we're going to take part of the chiropractic law apart to allow acupuncturists to do this thing they're really not qualified for. And it's not taught in their universities either here, in Korea, or China. And the other thing that kind of confuses me with why we're even here with this bill is he eloquently says about this therapy called, I'm going to mispronounce it probably, Tuina, where they actually do some manipulation. So they're already doing it. So why are we adding a very highly specialized form of it? They already have pretty much what they want. So I'm not quite sure why they're doing this with spinal manipulative therapy. It's not necessary.
I was talking about dry needling and
Yeah.
acupuncture. So, and I think you were referring to spine manipulation. So I just wanted that question was are the ASUM practitioners trained in techniques that overlap with dry needling, and where do the training and clinical applications overlap, and where do they differ was what I was asking, if it is.
Well, in our research, all 50 states, there's no university program for acupuncture that has specific classes in spinal manipulative therapy. It's simply not taught. And in all 50 states that we researched in licensure, they are not allowed to do spinal manipulative therapy. And then the Oriental colleges is pretty much the same. So obviously that's why we're in opposition to the bill, is you're watering down the expertise of that technique. That's, like I mentioned, these things I could do in Oregon. There'd be no way that the medical board would let me do minor surgery. They would issue a cease and desist order immediately. But I could say, yeah, but I'm taught in my school how to do minor surgery. That being taught in school, even if it's multiple classes, does not allow you to do things automatically. You've got to qualify for them. And right now, there's no qualifying level for spinal manipulative therapy. And if we did establish rules, regulations for qualifications, they would be very stringent because it would include radiology. It would include a lot of things that's not in his curriculum. Yeah, he's already doing some manipulation under this Oriental technique, so I don't really see why it even needs to go any further. It's redundant at the best. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Dr.
Thank you, Honor. Let me explain what is acupuncture-oriented medicines. Acupuncture-oriented medicines consist of four main streams, such as like internal medicine, acupuncture, herbal medicine, and manipulation. These are the four mainstream of oriental medicines. Manipulation, acupuncture, herbal medicine, these are all modalities of oriental medicines. Okay? Also, manipulation of the spine. We're not only doing spinal manipulation just like chiro. We do whole body, joints, muscle, and tendons, include spinal manipulation, spine. The reason why I'm here, because chiro always say spinal manipulation, only chiro are allowed to do it. That's not true. Because, number one, our technique is different from chiro. Why? Based on Oriental medicine, not Western medicine. For example, dry needle. Why they PT practice acupuncture under dry needle? Okay. What's the dry needle mean? Dry needle means something is not wet, such as a syringe. There's a hole supposed to inject the liquid, chemical liquid to patients. They use syringe to do practice and intermuscular stimulate point, such as muscle tension point. They stimulate it. They're supposed to use a syringe needle, but now they practice acupuncture needle. They practice acupuncture, electronic acupuncture machine to stimulate everything with us under dry needle. Study only 50 hours and online. And needling is not their profession, not core requirement. That's why I'm very worried about communities. Something happened, they're gonna say, oh, something happened needling, so it's gonna affect our profession too. So Dr. Miller say we're not qualified to do spinal manipulation. Human body is a whole, one body. You cannot separate from like spine. This is all included. We're not doing only spine. We do whole body. I see chiropractor, they're supposed to. Let me have a question for you, Dr. Miller. Do you only practice spine or any other part of, for example, wrist, ankle, knee? Do you also adjust?
Head to toe, even stomachs, ears, all that has osseous structures in it. All can be manipulated. But the chiropractic identity, what makes it different than physical therapy or acupuncture, is spinal manipulative therapy. And while I'm here, it's in a very defensive mode, is don't mess up my profession by watering it down and redefining spinal manipulative therapy. And like I just mentioned too, he keeps talking about these traditional therapies where they do manipulation. So they're already doing it. They pretty much have what they want. And yeah, the chiropractors do complain, but to upgrade it and be able to call themselves, yeah, I do spinal manipulative therapy, which is basically like saying, yeah, I do chiropractic. Now, this is going to sound sarcastic, and I apologize in advance. I would think if this bill goes forward, then if they want to do spinal manipulative therapy, then all the chiropractors should be allowed to do acupuncture. It's a tit-for-tat trade. And it sounds really silly, but that's what's going on here. They're saying, well, we're tired of being acupuncturists, we want to be chiropractors part-time too. And of course, the chiropractors say, no, it's not safe. So there's no saying is stay in your lane. And right now, I'm in my lane. I don't do dry needling. I don't want to do dry needling. But I have to defend my lane, which is chiropractic for the future and for safety reasons. Now, most chiropractors carry a pretty big amount of malpractice insurance. So I'd like to ask Dr. Chung, is it typical to have like $1 million coverage for malpractice? And if you did have an incident where you were doing spinal manipulative therapy and you injured a patient and there was a lawsuit, would that policy cover you doing spinal manipulative therapy, or is it just for needling? So to get into the safety of the public, if you water it down and everybody starts doing it, you're going to have problems. Do you have that type of malpractice insurance?
Yes, so we do have a malpractice insurance. But what I mean is, chiro specialized spinal manipulation. Only supposed to do only spine manipulation, but they do wrist, elbow, knee, ankle. Same thing you see, you do spinal plus other part of body. Same thing as us. We study whole body plus spinal spine. That's why I say whole body plus spine.
Well, again,
See,
not to
same
sound
concept.
sarcastic, but I
You
study
can
the
do
whole
it.
body
Why
too.
I cannot do it?
So then,
I don't understand why.
then chiropractors should have full scope of practice in acupuncture because we study the same body. And I think that's ludicrous. I wouldn't want a bill like that. But the logic that I'm hearing just doesn't make sense to me. You're invading the territory of another profession. You'd have to change our laws to accommodate that. And it's simply not necessary. Number one is because he's already doing it under the Chinese style. And number two, you are actually taking something away from somebody else to accommodate a different profession. And it would be dangerous to our society to have a low-level training in spinal manipulative therapy because it's the, remember when I did my introduction, it's not about the bones, it's about the nerves. It's the peripheral nervous system. Those nerves go into every cell in your body and they're influenced greatly by chiropractors realigning the spine to get the pressure off the nerves. And nobody talks about that. So yes, I'm being very defensive. I think we have to be. I think it's dangerous to mix professions. You know, like for instance, let's say, again, I'm being sarcastic, I apologize for that, that acupuncture gets spinal manipulative therapy, but now they're bored and they say, you know what, we want to do some dentistry too. Now that sounds ludicrous too, but that's what we're doing here. It's apples and oranges. And I don't mind staying in my lane. I'm a chiropractor. I'm not going to do dry needling. I don't want to do dry needling, but I have to protect our territory. And we have laws in place since the 90s that do just that. And those laws would have to be changed to accommodate somebody with much less training.
Madam Chair, if I may, I literally wanted to go back to Dr. Chong and ask him again for clarification, what is the difference between the dry needling and acupuncture? And then I know that even based on what was being said by Dr. Millers, I know that this bill, both bills, one may be more favorable than the other, but I think that this is literally fair to bring this subject to the table as we look at technology today and as we look at practices that are happening, both Eastern and Western, and how we can come up with amicable solutions. And that's what I'm looking for. So, but I need Dr. Chong to answer my question as it relates to the difference between dry needling and acupuncture. Is there a difference? Or what is the difference?
Dry needling, acupuncture, the same. They just changed the name. The trigger point of a dry needle is Ashi point of acupuncture. Acupuncture 360 degree, 360 meridian point. Beside that, 8 extra point. Then muscle point, that's what we call Ashi point. When is muscle tension comes, there's a muscle is tense. That's what we call muscle tension point, such as Ashi point. And number 2, we're not taking chiro business. We're not taking chiro's specialty. We just do our own while we train, allowed to train, allowed to practice under acupuncture oriental medicine license. Clearly, we're not taking somebody else's profession. We don't want that. Beside that, and we don't practice spinal manipulation like chiro does because that's not our specialty. We don't want to get risk. We train, we do. Whatever we train in the medical school, we do all practice under our training. Yes, this is what my answer for the Dr. Miller.
Madam Chair, I only have 16 seconds left, so I'm going to read my fourth question, and hopefully there could be an answer. Regarding Bill 277, many jurisdictions are beginning to recognize the ACOM assistance through the national standards that are still evolving. And the Bill 277 proposes minimum requirements, including the 40 hours of safety and clinical training, 3 years of supervised clinical experience under a licensed practitioner, and certification by a professional organization. In your view, are these requirements sufficient? If not, what standards would be more appropriate to ensure safety and competency? So I'm going to address that to Dr. Cho, and if anybody else wants to chime in, Madam Chair, I would really appreciate that, and I yield back to you. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of Senator Sean Gumatauta, who is also a member of the Committee on Health. Senator Terlahi?
Chair, I wanted to answer.
If you could answer the question.
Can anybody answer that? Did you guys understand that?
Yes, Honor. The reason why I brought for ACOM assistance, because now all profession has assistance, especially on Guam. We have short of doctors, medical staff. We are very poor in medical field. That's why we want to more focus on the patients in the clinic. So a simple procedure, medical procedure, if assistant can prepare for the doctors, for the patients, that brings the safety of patients. For example, patient comes, the assistant prepare for the treatment room, prepare for the equipment, prepare for the other after acupuncture session, take out needle, take out the cuppings, and operating electronic acupuncture, and such as other procedure. Besides that, sometimes explain to the how after consultation, how we're gonna do. Explain to the all patient with assistance. Then I have more time. Doctors has more time to focus on the patients. So ACOM assistant is very we need to establish on Guam, and especially on Guam, like chiro and acupuncture clinic, only one doctor work. Doctors all procedure. It's too much overload. So any procedure, for example, California, they have ACOM assistants. So on Guam, especially on Guam, acupuncture established in 1973. The first state, we're not a state, but first U.S. territory established acupuncture. So we should have proud of, practice acupuncture and Oriental medicine on Guam. And also strictly prohibit diagnosis, needle insertion, point selection, invasive procedure. They cannot do it, only just helping doctors to help patient procedures.
Can I make a comment? I know you were asking about dry needling and acupuncture, so I just researched it on the web, and I'll just read. Is it okay if I read to you? Okay. So dry needling is a modern technique primarily used for treating, muscular trigger points and myofascial dysfunction. It is generally rooted in musculoskeletal anatomy, neurophysiology, biomechanics, pain science, and trigger point therapy. The goal is usually to reduce muscle tension, improve range of motion, decrease pain, and improve movement patterns. Dry needling is commonly incorporated into rehab or manual medicine settings. Unlike acupuncture, dry needling does not rely on meridian theory or traditional Chinese medicine concepts. So is that what you were asking, the difference? So I guess techniques...
Is that Google?
No.
Where'd you
It's
get it
something
from?
else. It's ChatGPT.
Okay. Chat GPT, I just want to note it for the record, Madam Chair.
Yeah. Just a quick, easy search. So acupuncture is a traditional healthcare system originating from East Asian medicine, which is what you were talking about. It involves inserting needles into specific points along meridians to influence the body's energy flow. So it's a little bit different in philosophy. Same, I guess, technique, but different outcomes. So. Okay.
Ma'am, the other thing I wanted to clarify is that in regards to the skill set of dry needling itself, it is not our profession as physical therapists, but it is rather a specialized skill which physical therapists do need additional training to perform. Same thing with acupuncturists, where it should be, rather than their practice that they already do, it is a clinical subset of what they can perform where additional training may be required, which is my concern here is when we start watering it down, as my colleague Dr. Miller said, now that allows them to do that specific subset of skill without actually recognizing or proving that they understand the nuances and differences between the two. So then that is something I want to clarify as well. For example, the Ashi point or the musculoskeletal trigger point, right? Understanding the difference and the causes between the two is something that we do have to be trained to recognize, right? Why is there a trigger point? What is it coming from? Is it safe to dry needle? And while our colleague is very well studied, we can't say the same for every other practitioner that comes through that he has that level, that they have that level of education. So I would just like to add that it just needs to be standardized as to what the expectations are, because if we require additional training for it, then I feel like they should show that they have the same foundational knowledge that we have as well if we're going to cross that border to try to be inclusive and be open-minded about all the ways that we can positively impact our island. We need to set a standard that we all can agree with and that we all recognize will ultimately protect patients and lead to the best outcomes.
Yes, Mr. Chung.
Thank you, doctors. But you say well-trained. You well-trained for PT, not acupuncture and dry needle. Dry needle, you guys, on the law, Allied Health Practice Act, say 50-hour study. Is it well-trained in acupuncture, insertion needle in the skin? That's not well-trained. We studied 3,300 hours for master degree. And doctorate degree, another 1,250 hours. 4,050 hours. For the whole 6 years trained for acupuncture, needling. Needling is our profession. PT practice dry needle under, PT practice acupuncture under dry needle. But it actually is acupuncture. Puncture, what does means acupuncture, that's our skill. And dry needle, what's a dry needle means? They change the name, to practice acupuncture. Dry needle means syringe. I never see dry needling use syringe due to painful. They're using acupuncture needle, such as 0.5 millimeter, very thin hair. That's our needle. PT practice acupuncture needle. This acupuncture is not, dry needle. That's not, I don't know what to say.
Yes.
If I could speak on some of the mechanisms that occur with dry needling as opposed to acupuncture. So physical therapists are not going to make dry needling their profession. It is a subset of skills that is commonly used across the nation that physical therapists have added to their current skill set. It is not something where it becomes our identity and the main thing that we do. Thus, we are not requiring as many practice hours. It is in the grand scheme of things, dry needling takes up about this much space in physical therapy practice. In regards to how is it different from acupuncture, it is not just the pressure into the muscle itself, but rather it is a mechanical stimulus in which the body enters a cascade of neurophysiological changes where basically the brain alters its sensation of pain or alters a response to that in which we can reduce symptoms or improve flexibility for individuals with different conditions. There are also several clinical practice guidelines within the physical therapy profession which state that dry needling is a form of treatment that you should be or can perform with specific conditions in order to get improved outcomes. So this is a very valuable skill set, which we don't want to make our entire profession, but it is something that is valuable that we have done extensive research on that is shown to be both safe and have positive effects for patients when done under the practice of dry needling, which is still different from acupuncture.
Thank you. We're going to now take additional questions from my colleagues. Senator Therese Terlai.
Thank you. If I could ask public health, first of all, is there a policy regarding exclusive practice? There are no overlapping practices allowed in these allied health fields?
Senator, can you repeat your question?
Yes, so Dr. Miller, yes, said that there was a policy in the Allied Health Board or in the law that there would be no overlapping practices in these allied health areas, and that if one is allowed, it's an exclusive practice in that field. In other words, we can't have dry needling in two fields.
To my recollection, at least for the Allied Practice Act, there's no policy that says that it can be overlapping. So for public health response or out of HPLO, there's no policy.
All right, and for this, in regards to what they want in this bill, that acupuncture and oriental medicine assistants be allowed to do certain things, and that these are, that this is how they will be trained. Were additional requirements submitted or not ever submitted?
I believe in their March board meeting that was on the agenda, and that was what Dr. Miller referenced, the request, or it was motioned and voted, requirements, educational requirements, and that has not been submitted in the April and the May meeting.
All right. You've researched this, or has the board, Dr. Mamie, have you researched this and seen what other states have done? My understanding is the states do that, they might do the opposite. Some of them allow only acupuncturists to do dry needling and not physical therapists or other fields.
That is correct, Senator Terlai. At least from my research, it does show the opposite, where the acupuncturists do the dry needling versus the chiropractors.
All right. If Pardon? Oh, if Dr.
Yes, my honor.
Dr.
Chong,
Chong, Dr.
yes.
Chong, is you've stated what the requirements are for education and training, but it sounds to me like those have never been submitted to the Allied Health Board for their review or even for our review, and that if they're as strenuous as you say, that if they could be spelled out, then we might be having a different discussion. But the problem is the bill is just too general and it doesn't spell it out at all. So we can't compare, for example, hours that are required in one field versus there are no set hours in this bill for your field.
Are you talking about Bill 277-38?
Yes, in particular, that one is.
Okay. California ACOM assistant required 300 hours, but in each state, each has different requirements.
Yes.
And if you study 300 hours to assist doctors, take a long time to have assistance. That's why we minimum high school and associate degree, 40 hours of anatomy, physiology, and strictly 3 years in training under direct supervised from doctors. That's one of the requirements. Also certified from Acupuncture and Medicine Association, to get an assistant license.
All right. No, I understand that. So 40 hours may or may not be acceptable, but what Public Health said is that the bill says 40 hours of approved safety and clinical support training. That's
Correct.
where it's vague. What is the approved safety and clinical support training? They need to approve a certain standard, and that's not here. And that's what they need, I think. If they need to be given what is the approved. I think in other states, they go by accreditation or something else.
That's
but
why it requires
approved safety. Yeah.
That's why it requires high school or
Okay.
association degree. That's a minimum.
All right. So
After that, 40 hours of study of anatomy, physiology, and for example, sanitation, cleaning, such as like that for infection. These are the requirements. There's no specific, the detailed information. Just like PT, they do already past it after that, additional, information after that. So this is just like forming of a system of ACOM.
Okay. I don't know. That's how I'm reading it. Brianna, from Public Health, do you agree that what we need here is a professional organization approved by the Guam Board of Allied Health Examiners that can certify these standards, or that they have met these standards, or an approved safety and clinical support training? We need some standard, like, I don't know, have you seen what they do in other states? Can you?
I can definitely research, Senator Chalaki, but I do agree that is what we need, specifically with the board.
All right.
So they can make
again, Dr. Chong has said, a certain school level. Those details, I think, Dr. Chong, is what's missing. And I think the bills are very different, and they should be treated separately because it's very confusing, our conversation. But going back to the dry needling and the spinal manipulation, I think it's also, well, according to Public Health, I would take Public Health's testimony and try to give them what they are asking for and see if they can compare that to what is done in other states, and then we move forward from there. They seem to be missing something very similar. It says, the bill says, consistent with the practitioner's education, training, and demonstrated competency, they can perform these things. But that's not a standard that anybody can enforce, right? We don't know what is every individual's education, training, and demonstrated competency. We don't know where that competency has been demonstrated, that type of thing. So I know the doctors, the acupuncturists and the Oriental medicine doctors, there is a standard somewhere here that where they have to.
Yes,
Sorry.
Yes, Honor, I understand. But we do have Guam Traditional Oriental Medicine Association. Our association provides some information for, we check whether the person who qualified to get a license for the assistant of ACOM, we screen that. It has to have a minimum education and background of medical field. Beside that, doctors in the clinic, we train for safety. That's most important is safety and sanitations. And very light work. It's not engaging, like for example, a PT assistant is the one insert needle, not PT.
Okay, well, let me talk about your ACAOM. I think that's the key here. So ACAOM is the Accreditation Commission for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine. Already that is a requirement to be called a doctor or master's degree of acupuncture and Oriental medicine, right? So that's one of the standards to be licensed in Guam.
Yes.
Does the ACAOM or the CCAOM, the Council of Colleges of Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine, do they have standards for dry needling or the needling that can be used by public health?
Needling is our specialty.
Yeah.
None of profession specialty as like us. That's our final specialty for needling.
Right. So I'm thinking because it's accredited, they must have standards in each of the skills that they require you to be adept at. So that I think that's what I just want to see is what are the skills that the ACAOM requires of you for dry needling or spinal manipulation?
Dry needling is acupuncture. They just changed the name, say dry needle on the, they practice acupuncture. They just changed the name, to practice acupuncture. Needling is our profession.
Thank you,
So
Senator
we don't have a
Tadegui.
standard. We have already enough credentials for practice acupuncture. It's in the 50 states has license to practice acupuncture and medicines.
Right.
That's enough qualifications.
That's why I'm thinking there must be a standard that exists that we can at least begin with to review particular, and maybe public health can find that for us.
Thank you, Senator
Thank you.
Tadegui. And public health, can you answer, is dry needling the same thing as acupuncture under your rules and regulations? Are they defined as the same thing? No, because that's the purpose of the bill is to add dry needling. So I'm just wondering if you could clarify what Dr. Chung is stating.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Right now, there's no regulations for dry needling, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Senator Gumatato.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the panel for being with us this afternoon. And I think most of my questions are probably going to be for Brianna, if I can. So if you can, what records, if any, confirming that the Guam Board of Allied Health Examiners from 2022, where the entity through Assistant Attorney General Rob Weinberg proposed to reinstate the exclusion of spinal manipulation from the scope of practice for acupuncture and Oriental medicine?
Thank you, Senator Gumatato, for the question. I have to go back and look at the records. I was in the, I know I was the acting administrator at that time, so I have to take a look at it. But I know we do have records.
No, and I hope you will come back to the committee. And I no, hang on, let me finish my question with Public Health Doc. How does the board currently verify the legitimacy and accreditation status of degree programs from which ACOM license applicants in Guam graduated?
Can you repeat your question?
How does the board currently verify the legitimacy and accreditation status of degree programs from which ACOM licensed applicants in Guam graduated?
So we definitely get a license verification from the other jurisdiction. But then if they're using their degree, we would have to get the degree straight from the school. The school would send in their transcripts or their degree to the board. And I can't answer for the board, but at least in our process of accepting applications or applications for licensee, we would have to vet them through their school.
So are the applications from graduates or of expedited or dual degree programs, are they reviewed any differently by the board?
No, they're not. They're not reviewed differently.
Okay, so I'm still sticking with Bill 276. How many ACOM practitioners are currently licensed in Guam?
There's a total of 6 licensed on Guam.
Okay, of those, how many have documented training in spinal manipulation and from what accredited programs?
I don't have that information with me.
Okay, I'm hoping that you'll be able to provide that back to the committee as we are reviewing this
course.
particular policy. Thank you. Has Public Health received or recorded any consumer complaints or adverse event reports related to ACOM practitioners performing dry needling or manual therapy procedures?
Yes.
Thank you.
And to my knowledge, 1.
Thank you. How do ACOM practitioners distinguish their approach from your perspective to spinal manipulation from chiropractic spinal manipulation, both in terms of technique and theoretical framework? Maybe you can answer, or maybe anyone on the panel can answer. Dr. Gregg.
Okay, so let me back up to, you were asking about when we were promulgating the Allied Health Act in 2023. I don't think you were here when I spoke to it, but I think it's important to know I'm not even sure that was a legitimate way to finish the promulgation of that bill, because we had our public hearings and they were late, like right after Thanksgiving, and that was the end of that session. So there's only, I think, 1 or 2 more sessions before that ended. And so we had our public hearings. Everybody said what they're supposed to say. And the way we've always done it at Allied Health, and the way it should be done at every board, is you have a certain number of days where people can also submit written testimony. And that should come back to the board for discussion. Say, well, should we do it like this? What will the final copy of the bill leaving the board look like when it arrives down to the legislature? But that didn't happen. What happened is it went directly to the legislature, I think via Rob Weinberg, and none of us knew what was going to happen, like with these restrictions on dry needling for PTs. That restriction is not valid. It's a restriction that says you'll never practice this because nobody offers this class. So we did not know anything about these things that were added until the governor signed the bill and we got copies of it. The board didn't have a chance to vote on the changes. There was no discussion, no debate, and that's the way a board works. You have discussion, you have debate, sometimes you have arguments. But it's still kind of a mystery.
Yeah, Dr. Gregg, no, I mean, I looked at the transmittal letter, and there is a separation of powers issue in that letter that talks specifically the fact that the legislature should not be in the rulemaking process. That's all onto the board. That's where I'm trying to get my head wrapped around today, is about the work of the board, specifically to not just for particularly these 2 issues or the 2 bills that are before us today. I only have 2.5 minutes.
Okay.
Let me go on to my questions, if I could, on the second bill, 277. If I can, or maybe Brianna, one more time, have you all at Public Health conducted any formal needs assessment, patient survey, workforce analysis to determine the actual unmet demand for acupuncture services on Guam?
No, we have not done a survey or a needs assessment.
Recognizing that Guam's, the AAA process requires acupuncture and oriental medicine representatives on the Guam Board of Allied Health Examiners to periodically inspect each acupuncture clinic with the assistance of public health, what specific safety and health concerns, if any, have been raised since at least the enactment of the revised Allied Health Rules and Regulations of 2022?
Yeah, I can answer that, not from public health, but from my own concern, is when Dr. Chong was talking about what the assistants would do. One was we sterilize needles. It's against the law on Guam to reuse needles. Our law specifically says you can only use one-time use disposable needles. And that would be a pretty big deal, especially with infectious disease. So that would concern me. Outside of that, I don't think there's any nefarious activities going on in acupuncture.
Oh, no, Dr. Ray, I don't think that wasn't what I was insinuating. I'm asking whether or not there was any inspections of these businesses. Dr. Mamie's shaking her head no.
No,
Since
no.
2022. So there's been no inspections whatsoever.
No.
No medical clinics get inspected either.
No, I'm just trying to ask it for this policy. So I get Dr. Gray,
Okay.
not a problem. The bill also requires the board to adopt rules to investigate complaints, suspend or revoke certifications, and impose discipline. Has the board assessed its current staffing capacity to carry out these additional functions, and has a separate fiscal estimate been prepared for board-level implementation costs? Have you discussed how much it's going to cost if these policies are put into law? How much is it going to cost for you guys to enforce?
Senator Gumatauta, we have discussed that this bill will have a fiscal impact, but I don't have that figure today, but I could get it to the committee.
No, I know that because BB said there's be 2 full-time employees that are going to be required to support this, and then just to be able to kind of manage the 6 folks that have ACOM licenses. I think that's what BBMR is reported back in the fiscal.
That's
note, right?
correct.
Okay, so my last question, Madam Chair, is do you believe that the board currently has the legal authority and the technical capacity to approve professional certifying organizations and audit their curriculum, or will this function require additional statutory authorization and or staff training?
I believe the board is qualified to make that determination.
All right, thank you so much, Brianna, and thank you, Madam Chair, for the time.
Thank you, Senator Gumatauta. Just in simple terms, I'm trying to make sure that I understand this. So dry needling is currently, physical therapists are currently licensed to perform dry needling based on U.S. national standards, correct? And so what we're trying to accomplish here is to allow licensed acupuncture and oriental medicine practitioners to also be licensed to perform dry needling, but based on different standards, which I believe you mentioned were Eastern medicine standards, which you don't believe is comparable to U.S. standards, correct? Is that what we're saying? And the same goes for the spinal manipulation, which chiropractors are licensed to perform, whereas the acupuncture and oriental medicine licensees are not. And again, the concern is that it's not based on U.S. national standards, where spinal manipulation is based on Eastern medicine under acupuncture. Correct? Dr. Chung?
All those I already mentioned of the curriculum of our training is national standard recognized by U.S. Department of Education. So this is U.S. standard. It's not Guam standard. So I have no problem to whole body plus spinal, because that's our training in Oriental medicine, not Western medicine. Dry needle, they say, oh, dry needle, based on Western medicine, dealing with a nerve. Which medicine don't deal with a nerve? All medicine deal with a nerve, you know? And vein and artery, sympathetic, parasympathetic, all systems, sensory system, motor system, all consist of human body. They cannot say, oh, dry needle is based on Western medicine because dealing with a nerve. Acupuncture, traditional Oriental medicine is not dealing with the nerve. We do, or dealing with always nerve is basic. Specialty of acupuncture dealing with energy to dealing with nervous systems. That's how it works.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I understood what was being presented here based on the testimony from the physical therapists and the chiropractors, as well as yourself, licensed under the acupuncture and oriental medicine. So thank you so much for everybody that testified today. Closing comments?
Madam Chair, and I just want to share for the record again that these bills addresses an inconsistency in Guam law by clarifying that licensed acupuncture and oriental medicine practitioners who are trained in needle-based therapeutic techniques are not explicitly referenced with respect to dry needling, despite substantial overlap in clinical skills and safety training. I want to say, Madam Chair, that traditional Chinese medicine is an established system of care with a long clinical history, and in modern practice is supported by a graduate level education, national board examinations, and regulatory oversight. This bill does not introduce a new practice. It aligns existing statute with a licensed profession already regulated and actively practicing within our healthcare systems. So concerns have been raised regarding spinal manipulation and patient safety. This measure does not expand scope without limit. It clarifies that practitioners may only perform techniques within the boundaries of their education, training, and demonstrated competency, while preserving the authority of the board to establish the standards, training requirements, and enforcement mechanisms. These bills also do not suggest that all manual therapies are interchangeable. Traditional manual modalities such as tuna and include soft tissue and mobilization techniques that may overlap with aspects of musculoskeletal care, but they are distinct in both philosophy and application from chiropractic spinal manipulation. So the intent of this measure is to recognize those distinctions while ensuring appropriate regulatory oversight. So, Madam Chair, the bills provide clarity in law, supports appropriately trained professionals, and strengthens patient protection while improving access to care through a clear, regulated framework. And I truly appreciate the testimony for those in support and who have issues off, because it's through that we as policymakers can continue to come together to look what is the best amicable resolution for, I guess, bringing Western and Eastern medicine practices together with respect. And I want to thank you for at least giving us the opportunity to look at this. And I look forward to any more information of concern that comes out or issues that we can support to make sure that we update what we have and what we need to do to bring the technology, the expertise, the professionalism that both Western and Eastern medicine have to offer to our community of Guam. So with that, Madam Chair, I yield back to you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity at least to have both of these bills heard, and then we can continue to look at it, strengthen it, and get it ready if necessary to the session floor. Sito Smasi. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Muña-Barnes. The public hearing on Bills 276 and Bill 277 has now been completed. So we thank you so much for providing your testimony and input on both measures. We will now be moving on to the confirmation hearing for the appointments, the 3 appointments that are before us and on the agenda today. We will begin with the appointment of May A. Camacho, who was appointed by the governor to serve as a speech and language pathologist representative on the Guam Board of Allied Health Examiners. If there is anyone here who would like to testify on behalf of May Camacho, please have a seat at the table. We ask that if you are doing so, to please speak clearly into the microphone and state your name and whether you are representing any particular organization. Sarah? I understand May is on the Zoom, is that correct? Thank you. Okay. Sarah, you can begin your testimony.
There you go. Thank you. Buenas and half a day, Madam Chair and members of the Committee on Health and Veteran Affairs. My name is Sarah Thomas Netaduk, and I am here today to testify on behalf of the appointment and confirmation of May Camacho for the Guam Board of Allied Health Examiners. I have known May for, I don't know, maybe over 30 plus years. I became close to her when I worked with her father, who walked the area here at the legislature, being a chief of staff here. His name was Kin Camacho. And I would say he was one of my closest mentors here at the legislature, and also as a public health person. Just an amazing person. And and because of him, I got to know May. And May is the oldest of several children of Kin and Laling. And I could tell you, they were raised pretty strict, and they were raised with a focus on community service and to aspire to education. And that's really what May has done. I've been impressed with her over the years, pursuing her, not only her bachelor's, but her master's degree, and working with a variety of professionals as being one of the, I would say, foremost speech language pathologists on this island. Not only is that a rare profession, I think. Here on Guam, we don't have many people that have that background. But even after she retired, and she has tried to retire a couple of times, she's in, I don't know, her second or third retirement. She worked for the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands and the Republic of Palau because she's known regionally as being an outstanding speech and language pathologist. She's very thorough, she's so intelligent, and she makes sure that the work she does is really the very best that she could do. She's very, she works with a wide variety of populations, but particularly with children. And that was another way in which I got to know her, was when my son, who is now 38 years old, was a child who could not speak until he was 4 because he had severe hearing problems, and May became his speech pathologist. And I can only say that after she worked with him for a while, we couldn't stop him from talking. So she did amazing work, and she did very well, and I can bear witness to that because she helped someone in my family. And I know that the people that I've spoke to, both here on Guam, CNMI, and Palau, really revere her as a great professional and someone that's very dedicated. I know we're going to see her on Zoom pretty soon, right? So May comes across like a very serious and a highly professional person, of which she is, if you have not met her. But she has a she's very heartwarming, and she is a very caring person. And she will go over and beyond the call of duty. And I've seen her do it with so many people. Even as a friend, when I talk to her about a particular case of a friend's kid or grandkid, she always volunteers to say, I can go and see them. And that's how gracious she is. So she's someone that I look up to and respect. And I feel like on the Allied, the board of the Allied, what is it? The Allied Health Examiners Board, or the Board of Allied Health Examiners, that she's going to make a significant contribution to this group because she's worked with diverse populations in terms of consumers, and she also has interacted with a variety of professionals because that's what she does. She intersects with the people from psychologists to people in the field of education. And as you know, she retired there as a pathologist and also at one time as the associate superintendent of special ed. So she knows the system, she knows the populations, and she's very good in working with people. She's a great listener. She is a critical thinker, I'll tell you that for sure. And she's very honest and straightforward. And I think she's going to be an excellent board member because she's going to go to all the meetings and she's going to ask all the good questions. And she's going to make the contributions that we need to have in that very important board. So I wholeheartedly support her confirmation, not only as a friend, but as a professional, as a person in this community that has witnessed her good work. So I thank you for listening to me today, and I'm open to any questions you might have.
Thank you, Sarah. We have also received several written testimony in support of May's nomination, to include from Kyokia Leora Mendiola, Rowena Dimla, Teresita Paulina Lujan, Michelle Camacho, I think Miss Artero, and a Lillian Lynetta Regis. If there are no questions from my colleagues for Sarah, we can pull up the... Okay. Thank you, Sarah. Ms. Camacho is now joining us via Zoom. Hafaday May.
Hello. Hafaday.
Congratulations on your appointment. If you can share with the people of Guam a little bit about yourself and why you decided to accept this appointment by the governor.
Of course, my educational and experiential background include position of speech and language pathologist. I was a program coordinator. I at one time was a teacher, and I was the assistant superintendent for the Division of Special Education under the Guam Department of Education. I later worked as a private consultant to the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas and the Republic of Palau. I also provided clinical supervision to graduate students from San Francisco State University who were enrolled in the Masters of Science program in Communication Disorders also. I have been active and remain a member of the American Speech and Hearing Association, a professional organization. I attained my Bachelor's of Arts degree from the University of Guam in elementary education, and then later went on to get my Master's of Natural Science in Communication Disorders from Arizona State University. My various positions span over 30 years. I have had unique opportunity to work with diverse populations and professions in our community. I've worked with babies all the way through adults who have had strokes and other communication problems. I've partnered with other professionals in the government and nonprofit businesses, and most especially with consumers and their families. I believe that if we are to succeed in improving and expanding and promoting program participation, greater steps need to be taken to elicit recommendations and perspectives from all we can aggressively find and listen to. I understand that the mandate of the Guam Allied Health Examiners Board is to license various disciplines, including areas such as psychology, audiology, and the speech and language pathology profession. It is my belief and commitment to be an active member of this important board, and I will attend all meetings. I'll commit to the roles and responsibilities and recommend any changes necessary to ensure that the board functions at optimal level. I appreciate the work of the current and past board members in carrying out this work over the years and meeting its mission with the administrative support of the Guam Department of Public Health and Social Services. I want to thank you for your consideration of my appointment, and I'm open to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Camacho. I do have a question, and it's based on your vast years of experience in education and clinical practice. And so what do you see as the biggest gaps in speech and language services on Guam today?
There aren't enough therapists at this point in time servicing the schools. I think that, and there are therapists out there in the community. They're just, working for the department can be a challenge. And so they choose to work outside of DOE, but still look to service the children there. There needs to be more practicing therapists in the department, because at this point in time, for example, they still don't have a therapist to work with early intervention services, which is clearly very important. You want to get them as young as possible. And like I said, within the school-age population, there still aren't enough therapists to work with the children.
So then what policies or changes would you advocate for to strengthen?
Really, I think what's needed is right now they need to look at the position itself within the Department of Education, because the position was actually borrowed from public health at the time. And so you have two different levels of, you have some people who've come on board as teachers and others that have come on board as full-time speech language pathologists. And those are two different classifications and different pay ranges. So that needs to be looked at. And it also includes in terms of, if you come on board as a speech pathologist, you are a year-round 8 to 5 employee, versus the pathologist who comes on board in a teaching position and is there only 9 months and works the teacher hours. So that, there needs to somehow be a workaround or have a position that is a school speech language pathologist with the same hours as everyone else, that's working in that area.
Well, again, thank you, Ms. Camacho, for accepting this appointment from the governor. I will now pass it along to my colleagues. Ranking member, do you have any questions for the appointee?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I just want to say, in the effort of supporting, thank the panel, Ms. Sarah Netadog. I will disclose for the record that we are in close relationship with each other, and in the many years that I've known Ms. May, I will give her my 100% support, and I know that the expertise she has is well above her being a part of this, and I just want to thank her for their being, and this is a volunteer position, and I want to thank her for stepping up to the plate, and also thank the governor for bringing the appointment down, but more importantly, that she has my 100% support. Si Zeus Masin, I yield back.
Thank you, Senator Muña-Barnes. Senator Terlahi.
Si Diyos masi. Ms. Camacho, I want to thank you for being willing to accept this appointment. I have no questions regarding your competency to sit on this board. There are many letters that we've received in support of your nomination, in addition to Sarah Thomas-Nedidog's oral testimony here today. They all talk similarly about your knowledge of the field. Of course, as Sarah said, the system and the population that it serves. They say you are an advocate, that you are a leader, and so I have a lot of confidence that you will bring those same skills to this board. But I want to talk to you specifically about the board. So the Guam Board of Allied Health Examiners has had some share of controversy, I guess, among all of the boards. One of the complaints is backlog of cases and the ability to move cases along. And then those get intertwined with, they're not able to move the cases along sometimes because they were unable to hire an investigator in that field, sometimes because money, sometimes because conflicts. And conflicts is maybe the first thing I want to ask you specifically. So, Guam's very small, and I don't know the number of speech pathologists there are at this time that are licensed, but I expect that you know all of them here on Guam.
I do.
Yes, and that would you be able to be objective in your review of their licenses and their renewals and complaints against them?
I feel that I can be. I've known many of them for many, many years. I've always been on them to make sure that they're, up to date in their ASHA guidelines and things like that. So, I do know, like I said, I do know the majority of the practitioners on island, and that's because the majority of them are employed by the Department of Education. There are only a handful that are private practitioners. There's, I believe, one or two at the hospital at this point in time. But I don't feel like my knowledge or friendships with them would impede following through on whether or not they are still eligible for licensure, or if there's a problem that comes up with regards to their practice.
All right, thank you, and I appreciate that. And so the board has so many different fields. I think there were over, Dr. Mamie,
15,
12 at least, yeah. And so you have to make determinations in those fields as well. Do you feel confident to be able to do that?
Yes. Not only do I have friends in the field of speech and language, but I know a lot of the OTs and the PTs and the psychologists. So, I'm hoping that I'll be able to become more familiar with what is required also with each of these professions.
Okay, great. It sounds like it is consistent with what you have had to do all along in your career at GDOE and in your leadership, that you've had to determine the standards and make sure that those apply to everyone fairly and across the board. There are sometimes they need investigators. Sometimes the board does its own. In some of the other boards, they do their own investigation, depending how complex the situation. But sometimes they need additional money to pay for these things. And what we've come across is that the boards don't have enough fees to support their own needs. For example, an investigator or a lawyer. And so that they would have to raise the licensing fees for their professions, and sometimes they hesitate to do that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've been part of the increase in fees for many, many years. It's kind of, I have very mixed feelings with it, mostly because of the fact that those people who practice within DOE have not only to get licensure from Allied Health, but they also have the licensure, the national certification from American Speech and Hearing Association. And the two fees together can be quite, you know, it's quite a bit. I recall one time where I paid $500 for my ASHA, and then it was Allied Health had just increased their fees. I believe it was from 180. I'm not sure what it is right now. I just pay it because, you know, I want to be licensed. So, and that's basically, you know, if you want to be licensed, you've got to pay the fees. And I think like DOE also needs to be cognizant of the fact that it's not just our fees in terms of Allied Health. A lot of the ladies that also, and the gentlemen that work at DOE also have teaching licenses that they need to pay for also, in addition to the ASHA licensure fees. So, you know, it's quite a bit. I believe at one time, special education did pay for licensing fees, but then because of, you know, budgetary cuts and everything, that was no longer possible. But any help they can get, I would try to see what we could do.
All right, I appreciate that, and I have seen that in other fields, that continues, where the agency will pay the licensing fees or the association fees required. So maybe that can be reexamined. But I guess from your testimony, I feel confident that you will be sensitive to their, you know, that the fees are, that they do not become an impediment. And I think in order to do that, the board really just has to be able and willing to do some of these kind of common sense investigations, if, you know, the ones that are not complex, and not shy away from it just because they know these people or because Guam is small. All of that, you're going to have to be willing to really get into it. And I think that's really what I want to just stress with you. And it's this backlog. We cannot afford to have backlog of complaints. We want to go forward with, you know, a government that's very responsive and able, and it's going to be a little bit difficult, I think, that part, or that's what it seems to be for some others. So you might have to push the rest of the board members. Are you able to do that to resolve these backlogs of complaints so that justice can come to those who have complained?
Yes.
Thank you. Sizus Masi again for your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Terlahi. Senator Gumatauta.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, May, for being with us remotely. I guess I can ask this is, from your perspective, what do you think is the biggest challenges that are facing the Guam Board of Allied Health Examiners today?
First of all, just getting members to come on board. It was really a journey to try to apply to serve on the board, and just getting people to see if they were interested, because I knew that there was a vacancy with regards to speech and language, and asking others to try to step up and see if they work on the board. Many of them are young and starting out and married, and they have other responsibilities, and this would be just one more thing for them to have to place on their plate. And so that's why I decided, well, I'm retired. I need to do my public service. So this is one thing that I decided to do. But yeah, it's trying to get individuals interested enough to serve on the board.
Thank you so much for that. In 2026, I don't know if you were watching for the last hour or two, but when we think about some of the emerging issues or some of these matters that would come up, are you able to keep an open mind in 2026 and beyond about some of the professions, some of the emerging types of industries that you would be overseeing as a member? Can you keep an open mind?
Yeah, at the beginning, I was listening to the chiropractors and the acupuncturists talking about their profession, and I see, Dr. Miller's side, and also listening to I can't remember his name, the acupuncturist, but and the lines being blurred between the profession. I feel like there has to be the research done. What are other states doing? How are they working through this also? I kind of feel for the acupuncturist, because of the fact that I felt like he was having language difficulties, in terms of English and everything. And so one of the things I think that the legislature needs to do is to make sure that there's somebody there for those individuals that may have difficulty with the language barrier. Because I think that was a lot of it was the back and forth between, what is dry needling and acupuncture, and I'm not sure sometimes that he was being understood clearly.
Yeah, thank you, May. I understood. I was listening intently, and I think that's the important part of the public hearing process here. And I think that also the kind of input that you're going to get as a member of the Guam Board of Allied Health Examiners, really, I'm hoping that you'll take some of the things that you've done in private practice at the Guam Department of Education, your work at San Jose State. I'm hoping that you'll be able to bring it to this important board. And May, I do plan on voting in the affirmative for your confirmation. And again, thank you for stepping up and serving the people of Guam. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Gumatau. And thank you, May, for accepting the appointment from the governor. Your confirmation hearing now has been concluded. Again, that was for May Camacho, the Speech and Language Pathology Representative for the Guam Board of Allied Health Examiners, for serving a 6-year term. We will try to get your report out and ready to be on session floor, hopefully during the next session, if possible. Up next, we will hear testimony and hold the confirmation hearing for Dr. Ramona M. Domen to serve on the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority Board of Trustees as the Guam Nurses Association representative. If there's anyone here to testify for Dr. Domen, and if not, Dr. Domen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Apologize for the long wait.
Yes.
Go ahead and tell us about yourself.
So Ramona Domen retired Navy 10 years ago and was asked or nominated to be on the Board of Trustees as a GNA member. I just want to say one thing, just having sat through the Allied Health Board, I can tell you I wanted to help the person, Dr. Chong, well actually the whole panel, just to say from my perspective, I could see, I think it's just a difference of opinion in spinal manipulation. The Dr. Chong just sees that as part of his credentials, whereas to me, Western medicine has come up with or I shouldn't say come up, but their term is spinal manipulation. So it's two different terms trying to get on the same page. And I wondered, shouldn't they just be on different bills? And I think I want to help the acupuncturists because I think they can bring legislation for an assistant. I know what he means. We have medical assistants. My medical assistant is waiting for me, but they don't have that opportunity. So I think I can help them, but I could probably help the Board of Trustees as well because in the Navy, a nurse anesthetist sits between physicians and nurses, because I'm a nurse who deals directly with physicians. We're called a provider. And then I also have always been the person who say that if enlisted comes to talk to their bosses or managers. So I've kind of always been the go-between in my career.
Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and just start asking questions. I'll start with one. What is your approach to addressing workforce challenges, specifically for nursing recruitment, nursing retention? Because we often hear that there is a nursing shortage, not just at GMH, but across the nation.
So just having start with GCC with their ADN program, I was in full support. Of course, we want registered nurses, but you have to start somewhere. And if that's where nurses want to start, a lot of those nurses then go on to become licensed RNs. There is no magic answer to that. But I think one of the things that GMH in particular is doing is they have the ability now to retain more nurses just by offering different incentives. So I know the number of traveling nurses have gone down, and that's just because of a different approach. And they also got more pay. A little bit more pay. But yeah, there's no magic answer to that, but I think the universities and colleges are trying to get more students through so we can get more nurses.
The Guam Memorial Hospital, they were here for their budget oversight hearing a couple of weeks ago, and they've been going through a lot of transformation, I guess you could say. In your opinion, what areas of improvement should GMH work on?
I think they have to be properly funded. When I worked there, when I got out of the Navy, I know everywhere is not properly funded, but it seems like the hospital having their billing, their insurance rates were 20 years old, I heard, when I first got there, and so they updated things like that, their collection rate. So administrative procedures could probably help with that funding gap. And then I know I'm a Ray Gibson fan, so people always, come on about how much the surgeons make and after hours and things like that. That's probably above my level, but they have to start with administration and how to or collect some of the fees that they're already owed.
And so are you familiar with the revenue cycle management? Are you?
No.
No. Have you been attending any of the board meetings to get familiarized with?
You mean the Guam board?
The GMH board.
I understood I'm not allowed to until I'm appointed.
Oh, well,
right.
Well, I mean, you can attend as a public representative, but
okay. No, I have not.
Okay. Thank you. Senator Muña-Barnes, do you have any questions for the nominee?
Madam Chair. I don't specifically have any questions. First of all, I want to say, si dus moxie, and thank you for literally stepping up to the plate to be a member for the Guam Nurses Association Representatives, GMH. And I want to say thank you for sharing your perspective, but more importantly, for your open-mindedness into situations that are existing today. And, we need a lot of nurses. I know that several terms ago we worked with the Nursing Licensure Compact, and, that opened the door for us because, like the good chairman said, we don't have enough nurses, not just here on Guam, but nationally, and anything we can do to support those efforts. I know I have a nephew, I'll disclose for the record, Dr. Paul Lagun, who's a gastroenterologist, and he has shared with us the difficulty of holding a lot of the nurses that we have here today, because there's so many other places everywhere else close to us, and then within the national level that literally there's a brain drain even on the nurses. We train them and they take them.
Right.
And you just being here after retiring and wanting to give back and step up, Madam Chair, I'm going to support her efforts. She's just not just a breath of fresh air, but with all your experience that you've had, having retired and wanting to give back to help the medical community. Thank you. And I'm hoping that we could get your application in for this next session agenda so that we can literally confirm you, and you can start giving your expertise and your willingness and openness to listening to all the issues that come on hand, because we need a lot of work. And it's not going to be an easy one, and you do it with a smile, and you're up here, Lone Ranger, but you're here, and Sainamasi for what you've done, what you will do, and continue to do for our island of Guam. Thank you, Madam Chair. I will support her nomination. Sainamasi.
Thank you, Ranking Member Senator Terlahi.
Hi, Dr. Domen. Have you ever worked in the government of Guam?
Only at GMH, but not the government itself.
All right. Were you in a hospital employee or a contract?
Contractor.
All right. The reason I'm asking is because GMH has been in the middle recently of just kind of up and down controversy of they have physicians, as you stated, that are, some of them are getting very high fees. The board, according to the statute, is able to hire them at whatever levels they want in order to entice them to come. The board seems to have authorized a lot of upper level management hires. These are unclassified employees, also at sometimes above step government. We have steps of entry level, and some of them are hired above step. But then there are classified employees at the same time that the hospital board recently has voted to outsource. They want to outsource. These are the classified merit system employees. They want to outsource dietary services for patients. They also had said they reported at the last hearing that their collections have increased with their in-house revenue collectors, but they want to outsource that entire division, which are the billers and the coders. And as you said, their inability to collect sometimes is not based necessarily on their work. It's based on the systems that govern them, such as the set rates from Medicare, Medicaid, those things that they have been unable to change, that they must change. And the board actually had not made many efforts to change this in the last maybe 4 years. And the last we saw a significant change in that was one governor ago. So I think the board has to push, of course, for every effort to prioritize that change in these systems where CMS pays, insurance companies pay, and those things, how they pay. But I'm not convinced, I guess, that this outsourcing, they have not yet shown us like a cost-benefit analysis of the outsourcing versus using the coders and billers that they have trained and who are currently running the systems. And I just hope that when you get in there, you will review these outsourcing patterns that they're coming up with, or these decisions that they've made anew. I'm not sure, maybe the chair knows who we are replacing on the board?
No, I'm not sure who it is.
Melissa Weibel, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
So for me, you know, these boards, sometimes it's hard because you don't know everything when you first come in. But I really want to impress upon you that all of the people of Guam are relying on you to independently assess the situation, despite what might have occurred prior to you getting there.
Yes.
To independently assess the situation, despite not being an expert. You know, you're just going to have to educate yourself enough without just listening to everything that they want to say. We're doing this. This is the way it's done. This is what I hear commonly from board members is that they know nothing about the budget because we just following what the administrator says that they're going to do. But the budget is very important because the budget is what is determining, you know, whether they keep these merit system employees or not, whether you know, we're going to have enough money to get the systems improved that we really do need. Is there any part of your business that you think might have conflict in with GMH? Like, is there any business conflict or?
I don't see any reason to have a conflict.
All right, and you have the time and ability to attend these meetings and participate in subcommittees. They have very in-depth subcommittee meetings, I understand.
So I asked the other GNA board member who was on there, and I said, what is the real commitment? And she told me about 8 hours a month, and she told me what she does, and et cetera. And so I thought, I can do that. And one of the last things I did at Naval Hospital San Diego was to set up a simulation center. I was a co-chair for that. And I tell you, I did learn a lot about budgeting and how to protect your dollars and how to argue with people or discuss with people why this part is not that important and we have to let that go, and why this part is important. So I will speak my mind is what I usually do.
Thank you. The appointment document says it's for a 6-year term. Are you willing to make that commitment?
I asked my husband, are we going to be here for 6 more years? But we've been here for 15, so I suppose so.
All right. And why do you want to serve on this board?
I would like to help GMH out if I can. I think I have enough leadership skills from the military, and then mostly people say they like me, and I can try to at least get a common ground, like you said. Don't listen to some of the things that I hear, and maybe perhaps engage in things that could push GMH to get more revenue, or at least, yeah.
All right. I guess my time's up, but I really want to thank you again for taking this on. It's a big responsibility right now. You know,
Yes.
We're trying to build a new hospital, yet we have a crumbling one, and we need to continue to shore it up, make sure that it takes care of the patients, kind of so do both at the same time. There are consultants that have analyzed GMH. I'd like to ask you to please take a look at what they have reported. The board seems to not agree, but I want you to kind of independently look at that as well and see if there are things that, what you think about that.
Perfect.
All right, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Terlahi. Senator Gumatata.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ramona, for wanting to serve. You're a decorated Navy captain. You should get a medal for wanting to serve the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority's Board of Directors or Trustees. Can I just ask this? I was super excited the way you started this particular confirmation hearing about wanting to help, and you were here for the last hour or two. When you think about that kind of engagement, your experience with the Guam Nurses Association, it sounds like you're just going to get into the board and just engage. Do you think that's your strongest suit here, especially from your military experience?
Well, honestly, first of all, no one else stepped up. And so just like this,
Oh,
the
come on,
person
they did.
before
They
me-
just, you're there. I mean,
I mean, I think I have the leadership experience to give some help to the board, and I think that's one of the most important things. And I like helping people who I think need help, like this the acupuncture community. I think I can help them because we're not experts in everything, but I know enough from my Navy background to be able to help them write some kind of standard that could meet their allied health board's needs to help DPHSS as well.
and I think that's important because one of the things that I gleaned from that, and I think you also kind of alluded, and I'm excited about the appointment, is that it's 2026. Things have been going on at GMH for such a long time, and I do appreciate the current leadership of GMHA. And I'm not saying, because I know you probably worked with the
Right.
former hospital administrator, your
Yep.
role, but it's something very kind of just different happening. Are you seeing that as a member of the Guam Nurses Association and as a member of this community? Are you seeing some changes that maybe pique your curiosity to want to help?
So GNA right now is trying to re-engage the Commission on Nursing Leadership because Guam Board of Nursing really needs some help as well. I don't want to engage in the Guam Board of Nursing because it's another subject. But I want to help Guam's public. I want to be of service to Guam's public health, and I think I belong at GMH right now, not Guam Board of Nursing.
Okay, so it's 2026.
It's 2026.
Are you looking at your role over the next 6 years to be able to take the hospital to maybe the next 6 years and beyond?
We need yes. The bottom line is yes, as long as they have the right resources, lawyers, and the right professionals to like Senator Terlahi said, they've been given an opportunity for improvements and the board doesn't agree. So we have to make concessions somewhere so we can move forward. It's 2026. We should be able to build and move our hospital forward just like any other first world territory.
And I agree that we need to move forward, and I do appreciate you stepping forward to serve. And yes, I will be voting in the affirmative for your nomination to GMH, and I just ask you to do your very best, and thank you again for serving the people of Guam. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Domen, for accepting the nomination. We will work expeditiously to get it onto the May session agenda and put it up for a vote. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will now hear testimony on our final appointee, that is Dr. Erika Alford, to serve as a physician representative for the Guam Board of Medical Examiners. And she will be joining us via Zoom. But I believe first we have public testimony on her appointment from Dr. Hoa Nguyen. Dr. Hoa?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. My name is Huang Nguyen, and I'm with American Medical Center. I just logged in today just to try to give a testimony to confirm Dr. Erika Alford for the Guam Medical Board. I know Dr. Alford now, I think over probably 12, 15 years already. She's provide excellent care to a special population of Guam with any type of endocrine problem. She's the one to go to for a lot of people. I have not have anything negative from Dr. Alford. She do tech call for GMH for endocrinology. If you have anyone that needs her expertise, she managed her own practice at our third location in Oka. Again, we have a lot of challenge in the medical board in the past few years regarding, the liability or the reliability of the medical board in a lot of cases in identify physicians that qualify to practice in Guam, and also there's some litigation that on hold at Guam Medical Board. I know with the hearing yesterday on the ITP and the pathway for foreign physician to come in, I also expressed concern that the Guam Medical Board have a lot of leeway on making decision for the future for a lot of incoming physician. And, you know, I know yesterday I said Dr. Bird is the chair right now, but we don't know who's going to be in the chair or who's going to be on the medical board in the next few years to make determination of some leeway given to them. So with with Dr. Alford and along with, I know Dr. Galgo have been confirmed already, with some very new face and very reliable physician to be on the Guam Medical Board to make decision, the right decision for the people of Guam. So I really wholeheartedly highly recommend that Dr. Alford be, appointed to the Guam Medical Board. I have no reservation at all. So again, I ask you to ensure that she got confirmed to one position in One Medical Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hoa. Dr. Alford, we can pull her up on the screen. Hi, Dr.
Hi,
Alford.
good afternoon.
Half a day. It's been a long time.
Half a day.
Half a day. If you can just tell the people of Guam about yourself and why you decided to accept this appointment from the governor.
Half a day, everyone. My name is Erika Alford. I'm an endocrinologist at American Medical Center. I returned home about 14 and a half years ago, and I've been working at American Medical Center since then. When the governor first asked me to serve on the Guam Medical Board, I did hesitate because it is a big commitment, and it is definitely a time commitment, and it is something that I have never done before. I've also never served on any kind of government board or any kind of government institution. So this is definitely new territory, uncharted territory for me. With that said, Dr. Berg has been a very good mentor this entire time that I've been on Guam. I'm not speaking directly about the Guam Medical Board, but as a fellow physician working on, taking care of patients. And because he is the chair of the medical board, and I feel that he is a very good mentor, I have confidence in being able to serve the people of Guam to the best of my abilities. Speaking to the governor a little bit, she was really excited about having me on the medical board, and thinks because I tend to be very meticulous, that I would be really able to help the people of Guam. Excited to accept the nomination.
Well, we thank you for accepting the nomination, Dr. Alford. I'll start by just asking you, how will you ensure that licensing standards on Guam align with national best practices while still addressing local physician shortages? And I'm not sure if you are aware the big debate that's been occurring on Public Law 38107, Bills 302 and 303. We just had a public hearing yesterday on those two particular measures.
So I am a little hesitant about, let me rephrase that. I think as a member of the medical board, my strong suit is I am very detail oriented. I tend to look into small details, and I'm the person who reads every line and tick marks every little thing just to make sure that we're not missing anything. I think that's very important, especially in the conversation about internationally trained physicians. I think it is the same with any physician that we come to Guam. Guam is such an unusual location. We still have to be American physicians with American training, at least currently. And yet we're so far away, people would have to have a reason to move here. And I think that's true for most people moving to Guam. But then the next question is, are you someone who I would want to work with and taking care of my family, my friends, and our extended friends and family network here on Guam? Because really there's only 1 or 2 degrees of separation. So I think it's very important as a medical board member to be able to look through every single application and make sure that this is someone that I would want to be on island treating my friends and family. Now, the debate on these internationally trained physicians is a very interesting debate. You know, there are different, I feel like almost every country has a shortage of physicians. I know Australia and New Zealand are rapidly recruiting American physicians. Many Americans are moving there. American physicians are also moving into Canada and the Middle East, and they're actively recruiting all over. And so it causes a bigger physician shortage throughout our country. And it makes it even harder for us to get American physicians to come to Guam. With that said, there are many countries that have the same standard of care or very similar standard of care to medicine in the US. And US medicine is absolutely, one of the best in the world. And we take very good care of our patients, and we use scientific data to decide on what would be the appropriate next care. I think just looking through every single physician who is coming to Guam, whether they are internationally trained or US trained, is very important. And finding out where their qualifications are. When I was in residency, it was very interesting. Most of our international graduates came from 2 or 3 different medical schools in the Philippines, 3 or 4 from India, and a couple from Pakistan. And I asked the head of our residency, why is it that we're only taking physicians from these programs? And he said, because we have had excellent care, excellent trained physicians from these institutions, and we know what their standards are, and we know their standards are very high. And so with internationally trained physicians, the problem is now we have hundreds of medical schools, maybe thousands of medical schools throughout the world to deal with. And I think just figuring out who is appropriate and who is not appropriate to take care of our people is going to be a big challenge. I'm hoping that I learn enough at the Guam Medical Board to be able to help sort through all of that.
Right, and determining who is appropriate and who's not appropriate, right, would be the responsibility of the Guam Board of Medical Examiners in terms of who is going to provide a licensure under the ITP pathway or the foreign medical graduate pathway. And as you are probably aware, Public Law 38107, for the foreign medical graduate pathway, it is open to both the public and private medical facilities, but under the ITP pathway, it is limited only to government facilities such as GMH and public health. What is your position? Do you believe that the ITP pathway should be open to also private medical facilities?
I believe so. And the reason for that is if you have an equivalent physician who is able to supervise an ITP internationally trained physician, I think that is okay. But it should be someone who is of the same specialty. So you don't want a general surgeon supervising a super subspecialized surgeon like a neurosurgeon. You don't want a family practitioner supervising a gastroenterologist, because what we do is very, very different. We may all be physicians, but what we do is so different that, I regularly tell my patients, that's not my field of expertise. I cannot give you a good opinion on it. So you need to go see, this person instead. So I think if we're going to open it up, there definitely has to be some kind of safeguard mechanism to make sure that the supervising physician is someone who should know as much, if not more, than the person who is coming in.
Right, thank you. And that actually is included in the legislation that I had introduced regarding specialty supervision and specialty practice. Senator Tadegui? I keep saying Senator Tadegui. Senator Terlahi.
Madam Chair. Thank you, Dr. Alford, for being willing to serve on this board. I guess I want to talk to you about the same things that I talked to all the board nominees, and that is, so the Guam Board of Medical Examiners, there's a very small medical community here on Guam. You have to govern each other. Are you do you think you're willing and able to be objective in doing that when it looks like you've been here, at least at AMC, since 2011? And
Yes.
I bet you know all the doctors here in Guam. And are you able to be objective in overseeing their licensing, their removal of licensure, or complaints against them?
I think I can. Obviously, it's very hard because the community is so small and we know each other and we work together often. And especially in my line of work, I think I work with a big number of physicians on island, if not all of them. So it does make it difficult. But at the end of the day, what I have to keep in mind is we as physicians are taking care of the people of Guam. And that's the most important part. So if a physician is unable to appropriately take care of a patient, and in general, the people of Guam, we do not want them doing that. We do not want them compromising care because it does not just reflect badly on them, but it reflects badly on the entire medical community. You know, it's absolutely amazing. Some of our physicians on Guam have unbelievable, impeccable training. We don't want a bad apple to be mixing in, making the rest of the physicians look bad. So I think I am able to be very objective about it because it does compromise the entire health, the entire community in terms of health.
All right, there are currently, from what I can tell, about 6 members of the Board of Medical Examiners: Dr. Berg, Dr. Louis Cruz, Dr. Alexander Weilard, Dr. Eusebio from GMH, Dr. Songwok Kim, a podiatry member, and Ray Tahaji, a physician assistant member. Do you serve with any of these at AMC Clinic?
No, Dr. Louis Cruz. He is a sports medicine physician and he is part-time at AMC. I actually do not see him regularly. I cannot remember the last time we encountered each other because we are at separate locations.
All right, so there would be one from GMH. If you are confirmed,
I am.
There would be 2. You are also from GMH?
So I am not employed by GMH, but I do take call and I have privileges at GMH.
Okay, so yeah, so Dr. Eusebio and you from GMH, and then Dr. Cruz and you from AMC are on the same board. And I guess I'm just a little bit concerned that do we have a good representation of all the different types of clinics and doctors here on Guam? But that's the governor's nominee. But would you be able to put in the time and serve on those subcommittees, do the investigations that the board members have to do in this board?
The nice thing with my occupation is as an endocrinologist, almost all my time is pre-scheduled. There's very little emergency, which is one of the big reasons why I went into the field. And so as long as I have everything scheduled out, I can make time. So does it compromise some time from American Medical Center, from clinical hours? Absolutely. But the good news is we are actively recruiting a second endocrinologist to join our practice. And my understanding is there's a couple other clinics that are looking into getting some part-time endocrinologists. And so my understanding is my patient load should be easing a little bit. So I will have more time available to serve on the board.
Yeah, I understand you're a very in high demand specialist on Guam, one of the very few that we have, maybe the only in that field. And so
one of two.
One of two. Thank you. And so your service is very precious to us. The board has caught up with a lot of its backlog, but we want to make sure that they don't get in that situation again where they have this long-standing backlog, complaints that are unresolved for years and years because the board says they're not able or willing to make the investigation themselves. They need to hire someone from off-island who's more of a specialist. Do you agree with that? What is your approach to ensuring that this board is not going to have complaints backlogged? Complaints
My
against
thing
physicians.
is, I hate leaving things unfinished. You know, in any aspect of my life. So even patient charts, a lot of doctors will leave stuff behind to finish. I rarely leave the day without having everything done. Inboxes, I clear it out on a daily basis unless something emergency happens. And so just personality wise, I think I'd have a hard time letting things linger. I'm very good at lighting fires under people to get things done. And so I think I can be of assistance to the board to make sure that these things don't happen, because I hate it when things pile up and now it's more stressful and more difficult to deal with. So yeah, I think it won't be as big of an issue, I hope, if I'm there to help light fires and get people moving, because I hate leaving things behind.
All right. And do you think you'd be able to review complaints made against doctors serving at GMH, despite you also being one of the on-call doctors at GMH?
So I'm not really on call. I get called if there are any endocrine issues. Thankfully for me, Dr. Rubio tends to do most of the GMH in-house consultations. They call me when he's off island or if it's one of my own patients. So I work with GMH physicians. But I also tend to go in late at night. So I don't have much of a personal relationship with most of them. Obviously with some of the few local physicians that I know well on a personal level, but most of the physicians, good working relationship, but yeah, I think I can be objective.
All right.
I don't actually spend that much time at GMH. It got to the point where my GMH work was so little, we were thinking of not even putting me in as a full-time privilege.
All right, well, I would just want to ensure that, I remember when we were doing the medical malpractice bill, that you were opposed to that, which I respect, but at the time, it was made known by one of our colleagues that I think you had declined to take care of them anymore because of their stance on that bill. And I want to make sure that you, when you're on this board, are going to serve as well to protect these patients from malpractice on Guam, from any harm that has occurred to them, because that is really the role of this board. And do you think you're going to be able to do that?
There is a little bit more backstory to that, and obviously for privacy reasons, I cannot disclose much more information. But can I serve the people of Guam? Absolutely.
All right.
And can I be objective? I believe so.
All right, and the patients versus the doctors, you're going to be able to do that?
Absolutely, because if a lot of times I hear things from patients. There are always two sides to a story, and I think compiling information is very important, and you need to be able to listen to both sides. And yes, I think I can absolutely objectively listen to patients. And I believe that many times, especially when there is a question of medical malpractice or any kind of medical negligence, I think communication breakdown is a big problem. And being able to help patients understand from the medical side and speak in layman terms is a big important thing. And I think being able to do that will help tremendously in reaching compromise and reaching understanding, so that there's not so much anger and hurt feelings. But yes, I think I can objectively listen to patients and where they are coming from.
All right, thank you.
And what their complaints are.
I'd like to see them.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to see them get swift justice from the board, as opposed to what may have happened years ago or in recent years. And then my final question is, so one of the other responsibilities of the board is to get from the insurance companies to see if any of the doctors are insured, malpractice insured, and they're supposed to, but there are no reports. They are not reporting that at all. So I would like to ask you to please follow up on that the board fulfill that responsibility. Report on whether the doctors that are licensed are also covered by insurance.
So the Guam Medical Board is supposed to report which doctors are covered and which ones are not? Is that
I think
what you were saying?
I'm not sure of all the details they're supposed to report, but yes, as to what is the extent of coverage on Guam. Yes.
Oh, okay.
There've been
I know
no
there's definitely limits on it because there's only one carrier and they do not cover every specialty, which is the big problem.
Yes. All right. I guess that's why I think the reports were required, was so that the senators would have a very clear understanding of what's happening in that regard. But again, I thank you for your willingness to serve on this board. I know you're very, very busy, and I do appreciate your service to GMH, to the patients, and here on Guam. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Chalahi, and thank you, Dr. Alford, for accepting the appointment from the governor to serve on the Guam Board of Medical Examiners. We will work to get your appointment onto the May session agenda. And that is going to conclude not only the confirmation hearing for Dr. Alford, but the public hearing on Bills 276 and 276 and 277. We appreciate everybody that has tuned in online, as well as those who appeared before the committee today and provided public testimony. The time is now 3:55. The hearing of the Committee on Health and Veterans Affairs is now adjourned. Thank you.